Hi, thanks for joining. My name is Mansi Vaghela. I'm a Partner Solutions Architect at AWS, and I'll be going over the APN Technical Baseline review process and kind of what to expect from it and what are some of the benefits that it provides. So if you're a partner in the AWS Partner Network, chances are you might already have heard of the Technical Baseline review. So the baseline is a pass or a fail review of your solution against a set of AWS best practices surrounding things like security, performance, and operational processes that are most critical for partner and customer success. The technical baseline review is available as a free benefit to all APN consulting and technology partners across all tiers for workloads running on AWS. And its biggest benefit is that it provides partners with one-on-one engagement with a partner solutions architect who reviews the product offering based on core AWS security, reliability, and operational best practices. Overall, it is a highly educational opportunity to learn how you can improve your architecture to promote successful customer outcomes. Some of the other additional benefits of successfully completing the baseline review is that it does qualify you for additional APN programs such as the Service Ready program, and it is a requirement to become an APN Advanced Tier partner, which would then provide you access to other APN benefits. The review process differs according to the solution type, and so we have three different kinds. The first kind is when we have partner hosted workloads. And so an example of this would be a SaaS solution, which we would review based on a checklist of yes or no questions that ask if certain requirements are in place. On the other hand, we have customer deployed workloads, which would be anything that requires deployment of a software in a customer's AWS account, for example, an Amazon machine image or an AMI. And for these types of workloads, we require that the partner provide the customers with prescriptive deployment guides on how to deploy the solution on AWS using best practices, and it would be this deployment guide that we would be reviewing. And then we have any other workloads that may not belong in the first two categories, where a partner solutions architect would work with you to review and qualify that workload. So what can you expect from the technical baseline process? You can get started on the process by submitting a request for a baseline review through the APN Partner Central portal for the specific solution that you would like reviewed. And then a partner solutions architect would then reach out to you via email requesting some additional details on the solution. And this can include things like an architecture diagram, as well as more information on how the solution operates, what AWS services it uses, and whether the workload is already running in production or not. Once the partner solutions architect has all of the necessary information, they'll set up a 1 hour call with your team to discuss the architecture and go through the baseline review checklist requirements. And this would be your opportunity to really get that personalized one-on-one engagement with the solutions architect to get recommendations on the solution that's being reviewed. After the call, we would provide you with a report on any issues that we've identified, as well as the steps to remediate those items. Partners can then go back and update their system to address the issues that we've identified. And once all the concerns have been addressed and fixed, the baseline review process would be considered complete. A baseline review is valid for 2 years from the date of completion. The checklist can be downloaded from the AWS website prior to the call, so you know exactly what to expect as you're going through the process, and that would be the link to access it. So now we'll go through some of the baseline requirements on a high level that you can expect for a partner-hosted workload. We do require that partners have AWS Business Support or greater on all accounts that run production workloads. This is so just that if the production workload were to experience any sort of failure or downtime, you do have access to 24/7 technical support with experts in the service to help you recover. But not only that, it also gives you the opportunity to seek out architectural guidance from experts in those services and also answer any other technical questions that you may have. In terms of communications from AWS, we want to ensure that the operations, billing, and security contexts are all set to email addresses that are owned by the company and not by any one individual using personal email addresses. We are also looking to ensure that the root account credentials are protected and there is little to no root account usage, as it does give unrestricted access to all the resources, and this is definitely something that we would want to avoid. And we also want to make sure that there are no access keys assigned to the root account for the same reason. Instead of using the root account, we're looking to see that the solution uses IAM users and roles, and they're being used correctly where all policies are applied on a least privilege basis. We're also looking to see that the users all have multi-factor authentication enabled, and IAM credentials are rotated on a regular basis. And then diving into the audit and logging setup, we're looking to see that CloudTrail is enabled for all accounts in every region. And this is to ensure that you have visibility into all the actions that occur in the account and that all CloudTrail logs are stored in a separate, secure account to ensure that they can't be tampered with or accidentally deleted for any reason. So here we have an example where we can see that there are 3 separate AWS accounts, one for production, one for testing, and one for deployment. But as we can see, all CloudTrail logs from the 3 accounts are stored in a separate audit account that would then have restricted access, again, to make it tamper-proof and avoid any sort of accidental deletion. And then we also like to evaluate the backup and recovery mechanisms that are in place for the workload. And this is to ensure that any data that's stored for the workload is backed up on a regular schedule. So for example, if you're using RDS, then the backups are done through snapshots. If you're using S3, then the data is being replicated elsewhere. And we're also looking to see that the recovery from the backups is tested on a regular basis or after every major change, just to make sure that the data is still reliable and can be back restored. We also like to see that the partner has a robust disaster recovery plan in place with a well-defined recovery point objective and recovery time objective to ensure that there's minimal downtime or data loss in the event of a disaster. And again, same with the backups, we also want to ensure that the disaster recovery is tested on a regular basis. If the workload makes use of any S3 buckets, we also want to make sure that the buckets are secured to prevent public access unless absolutely necessary, and also that there is monitoring in place to alert you if a bucket does become public for any reason so that it can be fixed right away. If the solution requires any sort of cross-account access to resources in a customer account, we want to make sure that this is implemented correctly using IAM roles with external IDs and temporary credentials, just to ensure that no security vulnerabilities are introduced that grant any sort of unwanted user access to the resources in the account. And then getting into more of the compliance side of things, if the workload handles any personally identifiable information or personal health information, we want to make sure that it's encrypted both at transit and at rest, and also that all access to the PII and PHI is logged throughout the system. And lastly, we want to see that there is an established process to ensure that all required compliance standards are met, such as HIPAA, FedRAMP, and PCI DSS. So those are on a high level, the requirements for the partner-hosted workloads. Now, taking a look at the baseline requirements for customer-deployed workloads, we evaluate the customer deployment guide to ensure that it provides thorough instructions on how to deploy the solution, as well as any troubleshooting steps that might be required, and best practices and security recommendations on the specific AWS services that are being used. The customer deployed checklist can also be downloaded from the AWS website for reference, and that would be the link to do so. As I mentioned earlier, if you're ready for a technical baseline review, you can request it through the APN Partners Central portal by going to View My APN Account, and then in there selecting the solution that you would like reviewed, and filling out the required information and submitting the request. It's really a very straightforward process. As I mentioned, the technical baseline review is offered at no extra cost to the APN partners, so you should definitely take advantage of it. Our network of partner solutions architects have years of experience supporting millions of active AWS customers and also helping APN partners optimize and refine processes to deliver successful customer outcomes. All APN partners are highly encouraged to review their product offerings through the technical baseline review process. And I hope I've managed to convince you to pursue a technical baseline review. Thanks for joining.